Hi, and welcome to the Confident Woman Podcast. I'm Rachel.
And I'm Erin.
And we're here to keep it real, raw, and what it means to be the confident woman. All right, ladies, we are back with another amazing guest. Today we have with us Tiffany Wynn. Tiffany is a wife, a girl mom, and former people pleaser who built a multiple six-figure network marketing empire and coaching business by capitalizing on one thing, confidence. Tiffany claimed her ambition, and instead of letting her business overwork her, she took her biggest limiting beliefs and made them her superpower to create a life and business that went from striving to thriving. Like, how many of us are just at that point where we're striving? We're just there. So super excited as we dive in, but I want to also note that she has created soul systems and strategies that connected her soul goals so that she could ditch the hustle and grind for grit and grace and build a business that not only filled her bank account, but her heart, soul, and purpose too. The same girl that swore she was unlikable now leads a team of over 3,500 women doing millions of dollars in sales a year. She got bold with her belief, fierce with her faith, and started taking audacious aligned action. And she's now on a mission to show other women who may be doubting their potential or dimming their light, how they can use their unique gifts and strengths to glow up, show up, and blow up too. So obviously, this is going to be an incredible conversation because who doesn't want to talk about all those things? And coming from a place of, somebody who didn't believe in herself and had so much doubt and fear, and she flipped that on its head and turned around and now empowers women to go out there and just take back their life and rock it with confidence. So thank you so much, Tiffany, for joining us today. And let's get started. I'm intrigued. I want to know more about the story. Like, how did we get here?
Yes. Thank you so much for having me. Yeah. It's so crazy when I look back at, even just 3-4 years ago, I see the transformation in myself, and it continues to blow my mind. I try to put myself back in that place often so I can just remember how far I have come. Because I think sometimes when we are in the moment and we're just looking at where we're at right now, it can be so easy to feel like, oh my gosh, like I'm not where I want to be yet. Like I still have so much more I want to do. But then when I look back and I'm like, wow, where I started is just a complete transformation. So yeah, I feel like for me, the transformation really started when I started to just really dissect who I was. And I think when it comes down to figuring out who we are, I think it's like a thing. People are like, you have to find yourself and all of those things. And so for me, what really helped me was not trying to find myself, but more so trying to uncover all of the things that I thought that I was supposed to be so that I could find who Tiffany was at my core. So instead of looking outside of myself to figure out who I was, I really dug inward to figure out who I was. And so it was just a matter of me looking at all of the pieces of who I thought I was, who I thought I needed to be, the things that I was doing that I felt like I had to do because that's what everyone else was doing, or the things that I felt like the ways that I needed to be because that's what I thought I needed to be successful. And really just breaking it down and looking at it and saying like, why do I feel like I need to be this person? Or why do I feel like I need to do these things? And really identifying what truly made me, what made me happy, who I was at my core, without all of what society said is, successful, or what, my upline in my business said was the right thing to do. And just really figuring out what my desires were, who I have always been, and just getting back to those things.
I mean, everything that you just said, I'm saying it's like nodding my head. Yes, I'm literally relating to every single thing that you just said. And it's so true because how many times do we lose ourselves and it robs us of our identity. We lose ourselves along the way of trying to be somebody else. But yet I think for me, I'm speaking on personal experience here, but I think more of it was on the doing aspect, to do all the things, because we see that we're watching everyone else on the sideline do all the things that we want to do in life. And we're just like, oh my gosh, I want that. And I want to do this and I want to do that. And I want, I want to have this life, this quality of life. And in that process of the doing and the having, we forget about the being. And in the being is where we just kind of get bombarded and we're told, who to be to do all those things, right?
Exactly.
Oh,
Exactly.
yes. Oh, can relate 100% on that. Yes. And so what were some of those like beliefs that you felt either you inherited or society or, culture or like, what were some of those? Because I think for those listening could be like, well, I'm not exactly sure what they mean by a limiting belief. Like, I don't know what that is in context of my life.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So one of the biggest things for me and just really owning who I am and, becoming more confident was realizing that a lot of the things that I thought were not good characteristics of a person were things that I picked up from listening to other people or believing things that I heard other people say growing up. So one of the biggest ones for me was I felt like I couldn't be myself. I felt like I couldn't be confident. Like I couldn't be, the loud, like bold, boisterous, like peppy, happy Tiffany, because and this is like a very specific story, but I feel like this is what happens to most people is it comes down to these specific stories that we go through, these circumstances, these situations that come up for us throughout our lifetime, and we attach ourselves to that belief. And so for me, it was when I was in, I think it was either 6th or 7th grade. And I was a cheerleader and we had our cheer camp over the summer. And so I was there with some girls from other schools in our area. And as my team was getting ready to perform, I heard some girls from a different school say, oh, she thinks she's all that as I walked by. And in my, 7th, 8th grade head, that became, you cannot be like bold. You can't show up confidently. You can't show up, with your light and being magnetic because people are going to think you think you're better than them. People are going to think that you think you are, too good or things like that. And so for so much of my life, I dimmed my light because I was afraid that that was going to make other people feel uncomfortable, that was going to make other people think that I was cocky or that I was better than them. And that's not what it is at all. That's just who I am at my core, is someone who is like bright and I do just shine. And it's not because I'm trying to outshine anyone else. That's just who I am at my core. And so for me, that was one of the biggest things that I realized, that I was really hiding myself so much. And I was so afraid of letting myself just be and letting myself be bold and be bright and be like fully Tiffany, because I didn't want people to have that opinion of me. And so when I really like let that go and really just, I use the word healed from that experience, like lightly, because I know there's healing that happens from like big traumas and things like that. But at the same time, this was something that altered my life in a major way. And it made me show up in just a completely different way for so many years. And so once I realized that, I started to just be like, it is okay to be a bright light. It is okay for me to be confident. And my confidence doesn't mean that I think I'm better than anyone. It just means that I think I am good enough for me, right? Like confidence, I think a lot of times people think confidence means that you are comparing yourself to other people, when really confidence is just, I like me, right? Like confidence is not, I like me better than you. It's, I like me because I like me. And so for me, that was a huge aha moment that allowed me to start to show up so much more boldly. And I know for a fact that that is one of the reasons why I was able to grow and scale and build my business the way that I have been, because I stopped playing small. I stopped showing up small and I stopped letting myself like hide in the corner because I was afraid that I was going to be too much for people, or I was afraid that people were going to think, these things about me. And I just let myself be me. And in doing that, people started to gravitate towards me because I wasn't hiding anymore. I was like letting myself show up, and people were attracted to that.
Oh my goodness. So anyone listening, seriously, you need to probably rewind that, because that was so profound and such a comparable story. Because I think, a lot of these narratives, right, our limiting beliefs are developed at such a young age. And maybe it could have been in your house or in school or something like that, and when we're in those situations, and I love that you had mentioned how, seventh, eighth grade, girls, we're still trying to find ourselves, and we're just young girls that are just, we don't know who we are, but yet we see somebody so bright that they become inferior, make us feel inferior. But yet that's not our responsibility, even now as adults, to when that happens, it's our responsibility to nip that and be like, that stops today. But as young girls, we don't know, and we're just trying to find our way. But more importantly, we're just looking to be accepted and to fit in. And it's something that you realize as an adult, it's not about fitting in, it's about belonging. When you belong, it's because you're innately you. So there's a difference of fitting in and belonging. And so, in this, right. And it took me, I don't know, long time, like probably in the past 10 years or so, that I've recognized that. And I was like, why did I think that I had to fit in this whole time? But my fitting in was a way for me to feel connected, to feel like I was seen, that I was heard, that people noticed me. And now, as we start to reclaim that power and stop playing small and not dim our light just to make others feel better about themselves, it's about becoming that light and letting that light shine through you and becoming that light for the world. That, like you said, the light attracts, right? So it brings us hope. It brings us encouragement. It brings us inspiration to knowing who is our light, right? So it's a beautiful thing. And when we take that light and we try to dim it out, or put it under a basket, right? Like we're hiding it.
Yep.
Who is that serving, right? So it may have made that girl feel good for a moment, but yet she probably was playing small in her own light and dimming it. And so how many times do we see this pattern repeat throughout life? But I mean, it's a beautiful story, that what you shared. And I love that you had that revelation where you're just like, no, you know what? This is the light, and I'm going to let this shine, because I don't know who not to be if I can't be me. And I love me. So I'm going to shine as bright as I can be. And so that is something that, when we talk about confidence, it can be misconstrued as arrogance and cockiness and you're better than. And like you said, no, it's none of that. It's because I love me. Like I'm so confident in who I am that I don't care if I have to, be the brightest light in this room. I'm going to be me.
Exactly.
And so it's such a, oh my gosh, good story there, because it's so relatable. And anyone listening, seriously, go back and listen to it, or find a story that's similar, that in your life, where have you been told or believed that you need to play small, to dim your light, to, lower your standards or your expectations, or become something that's not you for the sake of other people. And that was something, in my own journey, is like, I don't want to live for other people. I want to live for me. Like, exactly. I'm here to be me. Yeah. And that's really the inner confidence. Like you said, when you get to be you, then nobody can strip that of you. And there's nothing more confident about owning yourself than truly showing up as the unique individual that you were gifted and created to be.
100%.
Beautiful. Oh my goodness. Yes. And so how long, I'm just kind of curious, how long did that kind of, it was a little bit of duality, I would assume, in like a conflict, right? You feel that tug of war inside.
Absolutely. I mean, and still like that, like I tell my team and my clients all the time, like they're like, but I still feel, these feelings come up. And I'm like, it's a matter of you choosing not to believe that story anymore every single day. So like, I still have moments where I'm like, I should tone it down, or like, I'm probably being too much. I'm probably like, let me not do that. That's too much. Like, tone it down. People are going to be annoyed. People are going to blah, blah. And so I still have those voices come up, and it's just a matter of me looking at that and saying, oh, that belief came back up again. Let's shut it down. Mm-hmm. I don't believe that anymore. My new belief is this. My new belief is that it is safe for me to be fully me. My new belief is that I can show up and shine, and that does not take away from anyone else's light. Like just replacing those beliefs, because the thing about a belief is that it's just a thought that you've repeated to yourself so many times that your brain, your subconscious accepts that as your truth now. And so for years, right? Like for 20 something years, probably, I was believing this thing about myself. And so, it's not going to happen overnight where that belief just goes away, right? Mm-hmm. Like you've been telling yourself that for so many years. You've been telling yourself that it's not okay for you to be too much, like that. You've been telling yourself that it's not okay for you to be bright. You've been telling yourself that it's not okay to whatever your situation is. So it's going to take time to replace that belief with the new one, to replace those thoughts with the more empowering belief that you now want to accept as your truth. And so when you have those thoughts come up that say those things, it's a matter of just having the awareness to catch the belief and throw it out and just be like, nope, we're not doing that today. Like I get to be me. It's okay for me to show up the way that I want to show up. It's okay for me to do things my way. And it's just over and over and over again, replacing that belief anytime that it comes up, that you start to feel that doubt or that, insecurity around it again.
Right. And we all have that, right? We all have those limiting beliefs, those beliefs that'll tell us we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, we're not pretty enough, we're not accredited enough, we're just not enough, right? And so in that narrative, there's two voices, and it's whatever one we're choosing to pay attention to, right? So if we start choosing, shifting our attention to believing that negative and the negativity and the lies and the inner critic, but on the other side is also the same voice that's just trying to get a little peep in there, right? Like, hey, you know what? Yes. You really are good enough. And you're like, yeah, I don't believe that. Right. So what if we choose consciously to choose and shift our attention to say, hey, wait, what is that little whisper I'm hearing? And tuning your ear into that, because now it allows you to pay attention instead. And whatever we give attention to, right, it will continue to grab our focus, our attention. We're giving it the power. We're intentionally looking for evidence and proof in this world to support that belief. So if we start shifting, we say, like all the good stuff that is positive, and maybe just flipping that script, literally, I'm not who I am. We can start now intentionally seeking out the positive to reinforce that new belief and dropping those little proofs into our buckets that we now carry around as evidence to support this new belief. And like you said, you have to keep that practice, because it's almost impossible to go throughout your whole life believing something and just say it once or twice or even 20 times. But it's about intentionally seeking that out, and you have to open your mind, ears, and your eyes to see what is possible as well.
100%. Yeah. And one of my favorite stories, or like just lessons that really was so pivotal for me, and I'm going to get like the details of this probably wrong, but I just remember hearing the story once, and it was about a Native American family, I believe. And the grandfather was telling the children a story about two wolves, and there was a good wolf and there was a bad wolf. And at the end of the story, the kids were like, well, which wolf wins? And the grandfather said, the one that you feed.
Yes.
And so that just was like so huge for me, because I just think that a lot of times people think, well, I still have these negative thoughts, or I still have these limiting beliefs. And it's like, we all do, like we all are going to have them. They're never going to just like completely disappear. But which one are you going to feed? Are you going to feed and buy into those beliefs that are telling you that you can't, or telling you that you're never going to get the desires that you want? Or are you going to feed and buy into the belief that says you have like everything you need to achieve? You have all the things, you're perfect as you are, like all of those things. Which one are you going to feed?
Right. And that's, I'm familiar with that story as well. And I don't know if it's like a folklore or something like that, but it's one of those stories that have been passed around for generations and centuries. And it's so true, because again, what we're choosing to tune into or give attention to that's where our energy is going in. So if we find ourselves in this like bogged down, just feeling filled with self-doubt, some fear, uncertainty, the unknown, right? So, which we all encounter. And here we are on the Confident Woman podcast. And clearly, I mean, to be transparent, I'm not always confident. In fact, I'm going through a season right now where I'm filled with self-doubt, but I have to be so conscious and aware this day. Today, I'm choosing to believe all the positive things, because as we embark into something new, we don't know all the answers. And so there's little in our like little track history belt to pull from, be like, oh, I remember when that time that happened. We don't have anything. We're literally stepping into the unknown, and we're just grasping for something so that we can feel supported. And if we lean on the same support and the evidence that we had before, that we've been collecting in that bucket, discard that bucket. Like, don't even bring it into this like new darkness that we're walking into. We got to leave that. And, self-doubt is the opposite of that confidence, right? So we talk about that inner confidence. And like you said, everything is within. And so what was something that was really like this catalyst that really changed in your life, that, brought you up on this like trajectory? Like, you know what, now I've got myself, I found myself, I'm boldly showing up, I'm no longer playing small, and I'm doing this in my business, in my life, and watch me, right? I mean, did you even have that confidence yet at that moment? Like, watch me. But maybe it kind of grew as you continued, pouring into yourself.
Yeah, it absolutely grew. I think it was like there was like this ignition that turned on in me initially. But again, there was like this battle of like, oh my gosh, am I really doing this? Oh my gosh, I probably shouldn't do this. But I think as I continued to show up, so there was that consistency that really was so powerful for me, because as I started to do it, I started to see the shift in other people. I started to see people seeing me differently. I started to attract people in a different way. And so that really was like really motivating for me. And that really also helped me to step into even more confidence, because I was seeing the result of me, choosing to show up and choosing to not listen to those voices and choosing to be, fully myself and okay with that. And so it really was like a process. It was like this initial click of the switch, and then just a gradual like building of momentum that happened.
Yeah. And it's pretty cool when you start making that conscious choice to start moving forward in the direction you want to go. And as you do so, you start seeing these little successes, these little steps of progress, and it becomes almost like, for lack of better words, it's almost like addicting. You're like, oh, I want more. I want more. And it's so fulfilling that it gives you like this high, in a sense, like, how could I have lived the other way? Like, this is so good.
Absolutely.
It's fun. It's beautiful. It's magical, like all these things. And like you said, you became that magnet, because when you get to live on purpose, and it's not just when we find our purpose, right? It's about living on purpose. You're just almost in that flow, and people are just attracted because they're like, wow, she makes it look so easy and confident, and I want what she's got. And so confidence is like, for me, confidence was always a thing that I felt other people had that I admired. It was something I thought they were like born with, or they like basically bought it off the shelf kind of thing.
Yes.
And you kind of wonder, like, how did they get it and I didn't? And and we're telling you right now, that's how you do it. You choose. Your superpower is choice. You 100%. Have the power to choose. Yes. And I love that you're, the consistency, and you're watching this transformation take place. And all of a sudden now you're like, wow, I'm on a roll. What else is possible? What else could be made if I really push that boundary and step further into it? And now I'm bringing 3,500 plus women along with me. Mm-hmm. I mean, wow. Yes.
That's exactly how, I say exactly what you just said all the time, that confidence is literally a choice. It's a choice to choose that you are going to not let other people's opinions affect you, that you're not going to compare yourself to anyone else, that you're going to just look at yourself and just choose to own every part of you. That is what confidence is. And that is a choice. And I used to have the same mindset that you did, thinking that, confidence was like a character trait that people are born with. It's like, you have green eyes. Oh, you were born with confidence. And I wasn't,
right. Yeah, exactly.
Like one of those things, like, it was just, I thought it was just something that people like inherited, kind of a thing. And then, so when I realized like, no, like I can be confident, like I get to be confident. And so for me, a lot of it, and I know I don't like the term fake it till you make it, because I feel like that just insinuates that it's not real. For me, I love to think of it as acting as if. So for me, in the beginning, a lot of it was acting as if, because I didn't feel confident, like as confident as I really wanted to be. But I knew if I just acted as if I had the confidence, eventually it would come. And so I would, for example, like if I'm about to go live or something and I'm like, oh my gosh, like I don't know if like I'm going to get the right words, I'm going to mess up, this is not going to be crazy. And then I would just tell myself like, nope, act as if you have the confidence. When you press that live button, you turn it on. You are the most confident person. You feel great about yourself. You are, you have this just magnetic energy. When you go live, act as if. And so for me, it was just thinking about, all right, who is next level Tiffany? Who is the Tiffany that is, the most confident? Who is the Tiffany that has the things already that I desire right now? How does she show up? How does she move? What does she do? What decisions does she make? Like, how is she showing up? And so I started to act as if I was that person who had those things already before I ever got there. And so when I had a team of like 2 people, I would act as if I had a team of 3,000, right? And so I would show up and I would do things in a way like I already had that thing that I desired before I ever got it. And so a lot of that, my confidence was built through showing up like the person I wanted to be before I really felt like I was her internally.
I love that. And it's so, so, so true, right? Because again, we hear that fake it till you make it. And the reality is it's not, it doesn't feel authentic to you. Exactly. But when you're consistently showing up, giving your best, like you might have this highest version of yourself, this vision of who this confident version is. And all you got to do is say kind of like, well, how would that version act today? Well, what would that version say today? How would that version dress today? And you start, kind of stepping into her. It's almost like, a movie role, right? So we have the wardrobe, we have the makeup, we have the script of what you say. And so instead of getting so caught up in the perfectionism of it, like, but I don't have all those things. What would that version of you say? What would that version of you think or act, or who would they hang out with, right? So we have to create this version of the confident woman. And so, it's all through like kind of like a trial and error, because you're going to mess up and you got to give yourself grace and just be like, oh, that wasn't kind of missed the mark on that one. Great. So next time now what to do. And we can't look at it as like, I failed, I missed the mark, I'm not going to do it. So I'm just going to go back and play small and just do, the mundane things that don't bring you joy and light you up. But yet, really, if that's the version you want, you got to keep showing up for her.
Yes.
And the reality, first time you do anything, it's never good, right? It's kind of, you suck. It's a flop,
Exactly.
But again, confidence creates this courage, right? This desire. So you have to courageously go after whatever it is you want to accomplish in life. And so you were doing this, and now you're leading these women and you're building your 6-figure businesses and just really you've taken this embodiment of some girl who was told that she was just dim your light. We just want to shine so that you just tone it down a little bit, to somebody who's just like, I'm shining as bright as can be, and watch me, I'm bringing all these women with me and we are living our best lives. Like, how empowering is that?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's just, every day that I look at like what I'm creating, it's just like, wow, this is so wild to think.
Yes.
And so I know like there's probably so many women who have these dreams and these desires on their heart, and they feel like, but who am I to be able to, do that? Who am I to be able to have these things or accomplish this? And I just want to encourage you to not look at who you are right now, but look at who you are becoming. Because when you look at, I think about celebrities, at one point, they were just a regular person who had a dream, who had a desire, who, wanted this thing, and they went after it. And now like everybody knows their name, right? So I think about myself kind of in the same way, not that I want to become a celebrity. Nobody would want to hear me sing or act or any of that. But I think about myself and I think about like right now, yeah, maybe I don't feel like I would be capable of X, Y, and Z. But the person I'm becoming can. The person that I'm becoming will be able to do those things. And so for me, a lot of what has helped me become who I am and helped me with my confidence and helped me to continue to scale and grow as a person and in my business has been me looking at myself and doing things not from where I am right now, but thinking about like, who am I becoming? And this is something that I do like in my life, in all the roles, like as a wife, like, all right, maybe I don't feel like I'm doing great right now, but the wife that I'm becoming does these things. The wife that I'm becoming acts this way. The wife that I'm becoming, this is who she is. As a mom, I'm like, oh, like it's a wild ride. And I'm like, right now, I feel like I'm failing or I feel like I'm blah, blah, blah. But the mom that I'm becoming, she's this and she's that. And she has these things and she shows up like this. And so I just continue to step into higher levels of myself over and over and over again. And I feel like that is what allows me to continue to grow and continue to scale in my life and in my business, because I never let myself get stuck with where I'm at.
Yes. And it's in the becoming is the journey. That's the progress. Like each day is a step closer. And in this journey, it's not like we ever just arrive and be like, all right, made it. I'm done. Like
I'm done.
then what? Like, what's next for you? It's like, it's a constant evolution and like a shedding of our old so that we can continue to be made new. And it's like, so what's this newness look like? What's the next challenge? What's the next opportunity? What's the next level? And so you're always asking yourself like that next, but also being mindful to like also be present in the here and now to really, embrace this today's version, because tomorrow is going to be a different version. And if we're constantly shooting for the next, we miss out on the present.
So true. Yes, absolutely. Yes. One of my favorite quotes to, remind my clients of is grateful for where I'm at right now, excited for where I'm going. So, just staying in this place where you're like, I'm so grateful. Like I said in the beginning, like looking back, I try to remind myself to look backwards sometimes to see how far I've come and be grateful for where I'm at right now, be grateful for the progress that I've made and the growth that I've made, and just be like in the moment now, but also at the same time being excited about where I'm going. So it's like this duality and balance of both, which I think both are really important.
Yeah. So you hit the nail on the head right there, because it is, if we're so focused on like, get me out of wherever the sticking point is as quickly as possible, we miss the lessons that are happening. And that's in the growth, it's growing pains, right? It's in those growth spurts. And so what's something that you do to kind of ground yourself and bring you back to the present moment so that you can really relish in all the things that you have done and be grateful for them instead of saying, okay, but it's not enough because I'm not there yet.
Yeah. Yeah. So one of the things that I do is I have a gratitude journal, and I will write in that gratitude journal every day. And so I list out some of the things I'm grateful for. Sometimes it's a list. Sometimes I journal out just like what I feel on my heart. And I just take a moment to reflect and allow myself to just look around and be like really in the moment, be really present. A lot of my growth getting to where I am now was done, like I said, through striving and through hustle and like going so fast that I never stopped to really look around. And so now so much like a huge part of my like daily practice and just what I consider to be a business strategy for me is to take some time to like just be in the present. And so that looks like taking time in the middle of the day to just sit and play with my kids. I have two little girls, almost 2 and 5. And so I'll just take time in the middle of the day to just sit and play with them. And as I'm doing that, I just am able to be like, wow, I once prayed for this. Like I once desired this so deeply, and here it is. Like it's here, it's happening. And so just soaking in that feeling, soaking in that moment. And I try to do that often. Just remember to soak in certain moments, certain experiences, things that are happening. And it doesn't even have to be like big, massive things like, oh, we're going on vacation or anything like that. It could just be in your day-to-day life, just pausing and just soaking it in every now and then. So it might be like, as I'm cooking dinner and like my kids are playing with my husband, I'll stop for a moment and turn around and just like, wow, look at this. Like, look at this family that I have. Like, I remember desiring this so deeply at one moment and just soaking that moment in. Or if we're all on the couch watching TV, it seems like such a mundane thing, but pausing to soak that in. So it's just being really intentional about looking around and just soaking in those moments and really just locking in that thing. Because I think gratitude is a business strategy. Gratitude shows that you are grateful for what you have accomplished now. And that's so big for me because it's so easy, I think, to get caught up in what's next. Like you were saying, what's the next thing? But when you show that you're grateful for what you have right now, I feel like it opens up so much more of that to come to you. So when you're like, oh my gosh, look at, these 3 clients that I have, and it might seem like, oh, but I really want 20. It's like, no, just soak in that moment of being like so grateful for those 3 humans who've like chosen to work with you, and be grateful for that, because that's what's going to unlock the door to, getting the 20. So just being really intentional about soaking in those moments and just locking in that gratitude that you have for where you're at.
Yes. Oh, such great tips there, because seriously, we forget, and like gratitude can seem a little bit like woo woo sometimes. You're like, oh, I'm thankful for the, sun, moon, and stars, and like move on.
Yes.
And it just sounds pretty cliche, but like you said, gratitude it's an attitude. It takes what we feel that we don't have enough of and makes it enough. When we think that we don't have all the things in our life, and you take a moment, like you said, pausing, and you're like, my beautiful children, I prayed for that one day. This loving home, I prayed for that. Right. Yes. So what are we praying for? And then when we're gifted this, we're just like, yeah, thanks God, it's not good enough. Like,
right,
next,
exactly. What's next?
Yeah, you're throwing it back in his.
Check it off. Let's keep going. Like,
throw it back in his face, but then you're sitting there like, but I want more of this, and you're gonna get like, no, because you don't even appreciate what I'm giving you. So why would I hand you your dream?
Exactly.
You haven't even stopped to pause and appreciate it. You haven't been grateful. In fact, it hasn't even changed you enough. So you're not prepared for that next calling. And that dream requires a new version of you. And if you're not willing to do that work, well, the dream's going to sit there, because that's the promise, right?
Oh, good. So good. I remember my mom used to always tell me to take care of what you have right now if you ever want more. And so I carry that into so many different aspects of my life, because it just reminds me that God will gift you blessings. And when you show him that you are appreciative of it and that you're grateful for it, that then he's going to continue to allow those blessings to come. And I think about it like, as a parent, if I give something to my kids and they're like, oh my gosh, thank you, mommy, I'm just like, oh, yeah, I'll give you the whole world if I could. It just like makes you feel so grateful when you see other people being appreciative of the things that you're doing for them. And so I tried to remember that. And I think, even things as small as like taking care of my car, I would be like, oh, if I want a better car one day, like I need to make sure that I'm taking care of this one. I need to make sure that like I'm keeping it clean and not letting it become like a trash can, which is so easy to do when you have kids who just like throw stuff on the floor and don't care, so I'm just like, but I have to take care of this if I ever want more. And so I apply that to just so many areas of my life and my business, like taking care of the one client that you get, take care of that person, treat them like, they're the best client in the world, treat your business like it's the $1 million business that you desire, even when you're only making $500, so like just taking care of the things that you have is such a great way to open yourself up to more.
Wow. Yeah, that was to wrap everything up. That is exactly, really the golden nugget right there. It's like, you're not going to get more if you don't appreciate what you have. And like you said, that comes down to, if we look at the material things to the immaterial things, like, this body that we have, right? Like, we're never satisfied. We want somebody else's body, but what are we doing to take care of this? Our business, we want a better business, but what are we doing for that? And so even, oh my gosh, we're looking over the fence and saying this other couple has the, marriage goals, #marriage goals.
Yes.
Well, are you taking care of your own marriage? Are you taking care of your own relationships? And we can't be peeking over the fence and wondering why we don't have what they have when we haven't even poured, gratitude or made the efforts to pour into ours. And so the difference between that person and you is that person they're willing to do the work. They're willing to show up and give it their best, right? So they're watering that grass. Yes. And you're just kind of sitting there like, well, I'll just wait, when it rains and
yes,
living in a desert, right?
Yes. So, I love that. Don't wait for the rain. That is such like that's so good to just keep that imagery. Like, go water your grass. Don't wait for it to rain. Like, you have a water hose, you can take care of it. Like, control the controllables is really how I look at things. Like, there's going to be things in life that come up that you have no control over, that are out of your control. But when you control the things that you can manage, the things that you do have control over, it can be the biggest difference maker in, your life, when you're focused on like, what do I have control over? I have control over my attitude. I have control over, how I show up. I have control over those things. Yeah, I might not be able to control anyone else. I might not be able to control, certain circumstances, but what can I control? And really taking ownership of that is so huge.
Right. And again, it goes back to the power of choice, like you choosing what to do, so how you choose determines your direction. And, if that's the destiny that you want to achieve, then cool. You gotta go back and take personal responsibility and accountability for how you're showing up. And so, I mean, this conversation has just been incredible. And so what's next for you? I mean, you're on this roll, right? Like, there is no ceiling. You're just like, no. I'm going. So what's next for Tiffany?
Yeah. So I am currently really focused on growing my coaching business. So I work with women who have businesses, who want, to go through the experience that I went through, who want more confidence, who want to make a bigger impact and a bigger income, and really just helping them to find their light and shine their light so that they can, grow and scale and do the things and accomplish the desires of their hearts. And so it's been such an awesome experience. I'm, have a mastermind currently with this group of women who are absolutely incredible. And to see them showing up bigger, bolder, brighter, it's just, it's so awesome to see that. And so that's where I'm really focused on right now. I'm really focused on helping other women do the same things that I've done, because knowing how it's changed my life, it's so awesome to see the impact that it's having on other women too.
Wow, that's incredible. So anyone listening, we're going to include all of Tiffany's information in the show notes. So let's share with the audience how they can connect with you and find out more about you and follow along in your journey.
Yeah. So you can come hang out with me on Instagram at the Tiffany Wynn. And I have a group on Facebook where I love to hang out, awesome community of ladies. And you can join at TiffanyWynnVIP.com.
Awesome. So thank you so much today. This conversation has just been incredible and so many takeaways. So I just want to thank you again for being the guest here and just shining your light, because don't dim it. We want the whole world to see it, and you have so much brightness in you. So thank you for being here.
Thank you so much. It was great.
Hey, it's Erin
and Rachel.
If you love what you're hearing, and I know you are, be sure to subscribe, like, and review the Confident Woman podcast. We appreciate you listening. All right. Thank you so much for listening to the Confident Woman podcast. For more ways to connect with us, check out our Facebook group. It's the Confident Woman on Facebook. There's a ton of amazing ladies in that group that you can connect with as well. My Instagram is at Erin_Travels for Life. Make sure you go ahead and follow that, and follow Rachel as well. What is yours, Rachel?
You can follow me on all social medias at I am Rachel Brooks.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Look forward to checking you next week.